In this practice journal observation, it's noted, I tried to empty my mind, but I couldn't. Now, that's really a wonderful observation. Of course, there's some awareness that the person was trying to empty their mind, but there probably was also a whole lot of just trying to empty the mind and then not being able to do so. So let's discuss those two elements, or those two aspects of the experience. The self-awareness of trying to empty the mind and trying to empty the mind. And if that distinction is not yet clear to you, or not as clear as it might be, give it time. It just is a matter of taking time. You might also conceptually understand that distinction, but then when we are actually, going through life and even in our practice, we will continue to again and again get caught up in our experience. Over time and with practice, the balance will begin to shift, so that while we spend an awful lot of time caught up in our experience and a little bit of awareness of that, we will have more and more awareness of it, which will have us less and less and less caught up in our experience. So in this case, it might be like this. The student is focusing on their breath. Lots of thoughts are popping up, thinking about dinner, thinking about, how much time is left, thinking about, am I doing this right? Thinking about, the argument I had with somebody earlier in the day. All these thoughts popping up. And there's some awareness that there's all these thoughts, because there's an instruction, perhaps to focus on the breath as an example. And then there's this dialogue or monologue that begins to emerge along the lines of, I'm having all these thoughts. I wish I could just focus on my breath, but I can't because I keep getting distracted by all these thoughts. I wish I could just empty my mind of thoughts. I can't. I keep having more thoughts. Now, what I just described, if you can relate to that, I know I can relate to that, is what we would call getting caught up in the experience. We're just sort of like lost in our experience. We're not really aware that that is our experience. We have moments of awareness, but we very quickly get pulled back into the experience. Or we don't have much awareness at all, but as the practice ends and we reflect on what it is that we were experiencing a few moments earlier, it's still sort of in our mind. And so we're able to, consider it and then write it down. So importantly, this is a very wonderful observation, because there's some awareness of the person trying to empty their mind and not being able to. And there's probably an awful lot like a hamster on the hamster trail, just trying to get something done. In this case, empty the mind. There's just this, bit of a frenetic and somewhat frustrating effort in that regard. Now, I'll share with you, if you don't already know this, but even when we know this, it's elusive. We can't empty our mind of our thoughts. And that's not what the mindfulness practice is about, and we can't do it. So it's a futile endeavor, and ultimately, potentially a frustrating one because of that. But what we can do is be aware of our thoughts. And we can, in this case, with regard to this particular observation, be aware that we are trying to empty our mind, and be aware that we are concluding that we can't. So if you write down something like trying to empty my mind, or trying to clear my mind, or I couldn't clear my mind, good for you. You're aware to some extent of the content of your experience. Let us use that awareness to begin to pay attention increasingly to the experience itself from the vantage point of an observer.